There's no seat for you. Still. So normally when we're outside, I'll wait and then there'll be a timing and then we will come in as a sort of procession.
Right.
So preceded by my Sergeant of Arms.
Right.
Remember, I think you interviewed my Sergeant of Arms.
Right.
Then you defend its mace.
Mace.
And then they'll come in. Then we followed by my guard, myself. And then as we enter, essentially here, this is where you hear them call Mr. Speaker.
Right.
And then everyone has to stand. And then I'll proceed in here. So this will be, obviously we have to have a bigger new Parliament House because we have more members. And so this is pretty much the setting. You'll be familiar with it. Okay. And of course, those are where the public galleries are. And this is the press gallery. The press will be there. Here will be, this is where the visitors sometimes might be there. Okay, so they will be sitting here as well. Then our translators will be inside all these cubicles. So for the different languages, and then some of the cameras are placed on the side. And then when the red light is on, that's the camera that's being activated. So as you come in, so normally here, this is where you see where we place the mace. So here is where we place the mace when it's in sitting.
Right.
So when I am presiding, the mace will be placed here.
Right.
So during the opening itself, before I'm elected, the mace will not be here.
Okay.
Right. So during the first session, the first order of business will elect the speaker. After which, when the speaker is elected, I take the seat, and the mace will be placed here.
Okay.
When the president is giving her address, the mace will not be there because the mace is a symbol of parliament and of my authority.
I see.
Sometimes you will notice that the mace is shifted down here.
It's bracket,
right? And sometimes you find that how come I'm not sitting there? I'm sitting below.
I wonder why.
And then they'll call you chairman. So I'm basically a chairman of the committee. That's when the parliament is sitting in committee.
I see.
And then they'll shift it down, and then I'll be there. And then when I take the seat again, then they will shift it back up.
I see.
That parliament is sitting.
Okay.
So this is where tomorrow they'll be here taking their oaths.
Right.
And at the same time, we also have a broadcast where we will also be doing the swearing in of the oath taking in the other side as well.
I see. Okay.
So a bit more complicated, but because of the situation, we have you will remember recently we had the swearing in of the ministers.
Right.
In the Istana, and then two different locations. Sort of similar idea.
Oh yeah.
You can see this is a seat. So
take a seat.
Then maybe not a prime minister's seat.
Okay.
But in the seat here, so essentially you have so this is where you plug in your headphones, and then you can choose the channel, the volume.
Right.
So you listen to English, listening in Mandarin, in Malay, in Tamil.
Right.
And I hear you have this yes, no abstention. Remember when we had the division?
Yes.
And you had to vote?
Yep.
And one of the things we require is please sit at your own seat.
Oh, that's right.
Because when you indicate your votes, whether yes, no, abstain, it'll be reflected up.
Oh, so
when you itemize previously, of course, people had to raise their hands and then you record down.
Yeah.
Now electronically, we're able to document all this.
Right.
And then here you have a bit of a sort of a speaker for them to hear, and then your mics, which please don't bend the mics.
Right.
We've had the mic broken. It's not bendable. It's sensitive enough to pick up.
So
really? We have had some who thought that this is a bendy mic and they bent and then they broke it.
Okay.
So I won't mention who, but
okay.
Never mind. And this is where my clerks will sit.
Okay.
And then up here where I might sit.
All right.
Because what is new, obviously, is the perspex. Because of the COVID-19, we want to prevent splatter, because not to infect if the virus.
Right.
We put in place some of these measures.
I see.
For the swearing in, because obviously a lot more people, then we remove the perspex. So everyone will be doing the mask.
Oh, mask on.
During the sitting, what we'll do is we'll put a perspex sort of barrier around where the rostrum is, and then the speaker can take off his or her mask and then speak correctly.
I see.
And then we have coated it all with antimicrobial, whatever, so that you don't need to always disinfect it all the time. So you have the two seats here because, of course, when Madam President is sitting, then she'll be here. I'll be there. Chief Justice will be here.
Okay.
Right. But this is essentially my sit here, not the most comfortable. You can see there's also the castle symbol.
The speaker is.
And the speaker is inside here, and the speaker is
outside
and just behind the speaker. And so clock, there's a timer here.
Right.
Because we'll keep track of the time. For example, during, say, budget, Everyone has a specific amount of time that they can speak.
Right.
So there'll be a countdown timer. This is where I will also vote. So when the division of labor, then I'll press and activate the system so that the voting can take place. Of course, my mic I can move.
Okay.
Yeah, this one is a different special.
Special,
right?
Oh, we have a question.
So this is to signal to my clock in case I need to speak to them or consult, and then I'll press, and then the light will come on. And then Question.
So a student actually said that he has to sit in for long hours lectures. So do you have any advice on keeping oneself not only awake but focused on this session?
So my MPs ask me that a lot of times because, for example, sometimes we start as early as 10 a.m. in the morning. We only have one official break, 20-minute break during the whole sitting. So you can start from 10, finish at 8, and during the course of the day, only 20 minutes. Right? And of course, sometimes at the end of the day, if I have something else on or whatever, my deputy speaker might preside, but otherwise, I have to sit throughout. So yes, it's very important to stay awake where possible. Obviously, listen to the speeches. So what are the advice? The trade secret. So because and also because I can't go to the toilet, right? And have meals and all that. So I think you find different ways to keep, I guess, yourself moving with your feet. So I would definitely try not to sit back because that's a very real risk of falling asleep. So I guess maybe I don't know whether it's by design. So maybe I'm perched at the edge, and then sometimes you can do a bit of movement and stretching, so that especially at my age, you get deep vein thrombosis, which is not a good idea. And I think I usually have sweets here. Anyway, just to keep awake, or have coffee. That helps. Maybe a student shouldn't drink too much coffee. But there are little things you can do just to keep your blood circulating. And I'll do some stretching sometimes from time to time, just to make sure that the blood flows, stay alive. Yeah. So I think to each his own. I think the more challenging one, which people are always curious, is how do you not go to the toilet in the whole period? No, there's no bucket here or anything. But it's I guess kind of used to it maybe. All the training in the army, and sometimes you got to go and walk because you're the one who can stop and push us along the way. But for this, I'm quite okay with it generally, right? And maybe a tip is don't drink too much water before that, or don't eat too spicy food or whatever kind of stuff. And you find that sometimes because some people say, why is this so empty? And then people are not attending. The truth is, the sitting continues throughout the whole day. And unfortunately, I have to stay throughout. But at the end of a bill, some of them will need to go out. They go to as nature calls, so they catch up with the lunch or coffee and come back. Some of them need to settle some of their other speeches, research work, consult their sort of LA, legislative assistants. So a range of things goes on, and people are basically flowing in and out where we can. And of course, sometimes there's certain moments you catch when there might not be as many people as possible, but they are flowing back and forth. But yeah, so I think there are various things that we can do to try to keep awake, and it is possible. So please study hard, very important. And of course, the lesson learned is, of course, in classes, try not to keep it too long. Naturally, I think every hour there's a break. But here, because of formalities, we just have essentially one break during the day. So not easy, but doable.
Can they excuse themselves?
Yeah. So they come out and then they bow, they exit, and then they settle what they need to, catch a bite, catch up lunch, nature calls, or they need to have some meetings to discuss certain issues. Or some of them are preparing their speeches. So some of them will be preparing for the India as well. I mean, nowadays we're all multitasking. So I think that's what goes on as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially that's where it is. And then from here you can take a view. The difference now with COVID-19 is there are more spaced out. Previously they are all in the chamber. But now I space out all the way up. Because you space them out. They'll be sitting here, they'll be sitting there.
Yeah.
So they need to catch my eye as well.
So will it affect the voting?
No. So they won't be at their seats, right, to vote. So basically we do it manually.
Right. Okay.